I was going to start today's video with the "If you know Chancellor of the Tangle, give yourself a treat" bit for today. And then I realized it was probably going to be in the thumbnail, so I'm out of ideas for the intro. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Full disclosure, this is a cough drop. We're rolling with it. Cough drop day. The allergens outside are doing some work. Now, I've been given a very interesting request for the day, and let's drag this over here so you can see it a little bit better. Chancellor of the Tangle. So, if this is in your opening hand, you get a green mana on your first main phase. That's pretty cool. But what do you do with it? That is the question of the day. So, I got this initial deck list from GWAG? GWAEG? Question mark on pronunciation there. And it is a neat one. I got a pretty thoughtful set of sort of prompts with this. And they were very interested in exploring what do we do with Chancellor of the Tangle in Legacy. But they were hitting a wall in deck building. Because in theory, this should be a really cool way to accelerate out powerful cards. Your Hate Bears for the early game, your initiative creatures for the end game. 1 mana difference there. We're trying to go fast with a deck that looks like this one. Now, here's the problem that they were running into. They said that when they were kind of testing this, they were finding that Chancellor of the Tangle wasn't allowing them to ramp into their white creatures. And they were very, very unsure if Once Upon a Time should actually be in the deck. There's some tension here between things like Thalia or other lock pieces like Trinisphere. And they were like, okay, do your thing. Make it mono green if you need to, change what you need to change, try to make this work. So we revamped this one. And this is what I ended up with. So there's a twofold problem with Chancellor of the Tangle. Number one is it's green mana, which doesn't apply to the white cards. And number two, in the previous build, if you didn't get to 3 mana, you just maybe weren't using this mana. So let's try a slightly different approach. What if we fill the deck with pretty solid 2-drops so that any land makes it so that these cards are online with Chancellor of the Tangle or Chrome Mox? And you can sometimes do some really neat things where you reveal Chancellor, you get a mana, you put it under a Chrome Mox, you play a Bristly Bill or a Scythecat Cub, you follow it up with a fetch land, and on turn 1 you have a 4/4 that is potentially attacking for a ton on turn 2 if you have another fetch land. Now, this mana base is very much going to be trial and error in terms of getting it right, because we do want some number of Ancient Tombs so that we can open up on these more frequently, but we also want some number of fetch lands, and you gotta be some degree of greedy with some utility lands in there somewhere. So I'm very much not sure about these exact ratios. This is a ballpark that will be good enough to start our testing. One heuristic that I tend to use in building decks that look like this one is that the deck should be approximately 50% mana, and we are hitting that. And I am relying a little bit on our abundance of mana to make sure we're hitting our land drops for the Scythecat Cubs and friends, and so that we actually have our colors and enough mana to cast the cool things that are in our deck. So we go up to 14 2-drops, meaning that we can actually use the Chancellor mana, and hopefully use it well. Now, this is going to come at some deck building costs. I am not playing Game 1 removal here. So in Game 1, I am looking to goldfish my opponent. I am looking to get them dead. I am looking to have the bigger creature and win combat. That is my plan. And then in the post-sideboard games, we'll have some removal that does not run into our own Chalice. I think it is totally reasonable to play Solitude in the main deck. I think it is totally reasonable to not play Chalice and play Swords to Plowshares instead. But we're somewhere in this general ballpark. Otherwise, I like the stuff that was in the sideboard, and I'm not going to make any major changes. So let's see how this Chancellor Stompy goes. This one is a little bit spicy and experimental. will probably be rough around the edges in terms of mana until we've played a league and get a feel where the choke points are. But we're doing a lot of powerful things, and we have plenty of cards that have the capacity to win a game of Magic, more or less all on their own. And if you need any of these sweet cards, or some other ones, check out toamagic.com. Promo code ThrabenU always saves you 5% on your order. If you're heading to MagicCon Vegas, look for this purple banner. They often have awesome deals on HP, MP, damaged cards, that sort of stuff that maybe don't make it up on their website. I also personally have a big old stack of cards that I'm going to be selling them and walk away with a good chunk of change. They'll pay for my cool Vegas dinners. With that being said, let's battle. All right, so here we see some of the Chancellor of the Tangle awkwardness, where we certainly can't use this when we are on the play. The hand still gets to go turn 2 Anointed Peacekeeper into turn 3 Seasoned Dungeoneer, turn 4 Undermountain Adventurer, and Undermountain Adventurer does tap for 2 green mana. It is not crazy to cast this if the game goes long. I'm going to keep this one. However, this is a May, so I am not going to reveal it. Burden Catacombs from my opponent. See what the follow-up is. Nighthawk Rex. You think they're going to cast Vampire Nighthawks? I find it unlikely. But Vampire Nighthawk is the king, so they did get that part right. Ooh, I am so in for that. That's my play for this turn. If this is not dazed, I pull really far ahead here in terms of tempo. Ayo! So now my opponent's fetch lands are going to enter tapped. Now this flies, I can block it and it just bounces. The clues are a lot less good if my opponent can't actually, use their resources. That could get a basic. No, it is getting a tropical island. 4 mana this turn, 6 mana, 7 mana next turn? Unless I just want to Season Dungeoneer. I don't think I do, I think I want this mana. Weird. So let's initiative. I'll get basic forest, I guess. I'm going to send in. There's a really weird scenario, or no, it doesn't have reach, it has vigilance. There's a really weird scenario that can happen where my opponent has an untapped basic land and a Kaito in hand, where my opponent ends up taking the initiative temporarily. We've got beans. Sure. That's no attack from my opponent here. I'm definitely forging, I think, on my vigilant creature, but it's kind of close. I really want to play this, and I absolutely do not believe that it is correct to, which is super sad. So I believe the correct line is do this. It probably resolves. My opponent didn't have counterspells earlier. They've had a couple of draws since then, but I think this is resolving. I trap my opponent. 4/5. I'm going to go to combat. I'm going to swing in here with a massive body. I can hold this back, though. My opponent does have a 0/3 Tameo. And this is going to get to explore anyway. Yeah, I'll put an Anointed Peacekeeper into my graveyard. My opponent is at 6. Now I get to fetch. Oh no, my own Seasoned Dungeoneer. Sorry, my own Archon. That's fine. That is yet another tapped land from my opponent. No Tameo attack. I'm gonna draw a card. That's real cool. Slightly awkward with this, because I would love to multi-spell. I think I'm still casting this. So, whatever you're gonna do it now. This just lets me know whether or not I can just use the Seasoned Dungeoneer trigger right here. It is a murderous cut. I'll float the mana, even though I don't think I'm going to do anything with it. Cool. I will go ahead and have this attack. I will not put an Undermountain Adventurer into my graveyard. I will draw that in a minute. So this puts my opponent to 2. I'll pass the turn here. Opponent has plenty of cards, but it's tough for them to use them, and they need to use them on their own turn. Yeah, I also just have Throne of the Dead 3 coming. I think I misplayed this game with the placement of my counters. I was trying to take advantage of the vigilance here, but I think it was just more important to put these counters here so that I could attack through Tameo or block and kill Tameo. I think that was a pretty big mistake on my end that did not get punished because of how just objectively powerful my start was. I'm not sure if I'm even going to sideboard, honestly. Sheltered by Ghosts and Force of Vigor type cards are perfectly fine for Up the Beanstalk, and potentially things like the backside of Tameo. I don't super want to cut cards, though. My opponent just may have enough things at different mana values that Chalice of the Void is not the best. I'm going to play Sheltered by Ghosts for the ward effect, and the ability to nuke things that my opponent is doing is incidental upside. This is fine. It's not good. I think I am going to count on my deck being half mana, though, and just assume that I will draw extra mana. So I'm going to Chrome Mox. Slightly awkwardly, the card that I want to give up here is Sheltered by Ghosts, which means that I have to use my fetch land to play Bristly Bill. That is what it is. I don't want to give up Undermountain Adventurer here. This subgame is so very strong. We get pushed immediately. We do. Well, I'm losing something. Presumably the Seasoned Dungeoneer. Oh, it was the Undermountain Adventurer. And I get Wastelanded. That's very good for my opponent. This is a very bad draw, obviously. So now opponent can start deploying their Up the Beanstalks and such. This is a much worse opener than last time for me. One more mana. Cavern of Souls would be a great pickup for me. I've got 2 of them. All right. I think this is just going to be a basic. So there's some massive tension here, because if this resolves, I don't actually get to fetch a basic for it resolving. But if it doesn't resolve, then I want to have this so I don't get wastelanded off my green. Womp womp. So the nightmare scenario here is remove this, play Orcish Bowmasters, take the initiative. I probably just concede to that. Bargain. The opponent is now up to 4 lands. Has 6 cards in hand. Presumably, this card is not going the distance. Yeah. So, as much as I want to funnel down the left side in this matchup, I just can't do that here. Let's bottom that land. Op the Peacekeeper. Opponent's going to throw a Bowmaster in play in response. Oh, no. This is going to obliterate me. Fatal Push is also problematic for this. So it's currently slightly awkward for my opponent to get Revolt. They have to give up the Bowmaster. They also have a line where they just wasteland themselves, they wasteland their own wasteland. And that can give Revolt if I don't block. I can also just get a basic land and pay 5 for this. This is a +2. Ugh, I am unhappy with my current situation. So opponent grabs Island, they'll go to 5 mana. They can push my creature, empty the board, and then probably hold initiative and play a Goyf too. And Pondering now. I think I am likely to just concede here. I am not technically dead, but I don't think I have the tools to easily win this one. So my plan is Sheltered by Ghosts the Archon, remove the Goyf, and then my opponent never does anything again. That's the plan. This Goyf's so thick. Rip Sheltered by Ghosts. Now I think I'm going to take 1 draw step and concede. Yeah, no. It's cool. Deal 7. Okay. So if they get a Murktide Regent, let's just do that. I believe that I'm okay with how I have sideboarded. I just need a more aggressive hand. I need a hand closer to the first one. My opponent now knows that they really need early interaction. We got pretty lucky with their first opening hand. This is 2 mana. So this is another one of those times where I can try to believe that my top card is mana. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to mulligan and try to find something more stable. This is fine. I'm going to go for threat density here. Lush Portico for Archon. I mean, yeah. I am not going to give that up. Wasteland. Easily the scariest card against me right now. Did not summon Wasteland. Thumbs up. We are going to attempt this. Again, the upside is very high, but I don't think this is going to work. I think a lot of the times my opponent just fetches and Fatal Pushes this immediately. Exhibit A. Don't Wasteland me. Nice. Rome Box is pretty cool. That makes this city of traders much more stable. Let's get information here. Bowmaster's in response. No big deal. So the endurance is a little annoying in the short term, but I think I'm just selecting bargain because bargain can get my opponent into force of will. Bargain. And then I'll pass. Let's pop these out. So I would like to draw, damn it, any green or white card that I can imprint under Chrome Box here. I tried to use Peacekeeper to clear the way. All right, so Delta has happened. If I were a betting man, I think Witherbloom command is probably gone. Fatal Push is very good for my opponent. Classic. Thank you, deck. So since I missed, I think I have to give up City of Traders, unfortunately. Grab a new Savannah, and then deploy one of these. I think this one is the bait. Okay, it resolves. Grab a basic. Pass the turn. So the fear here is like removal spell, and my opponent has the initiative. Okay, it is the bargain. And looks like Murderous Cut. Yes. So again, I can draw any colored spell in my entire deck to take the initiative back instantly. I mean, yeah, that works. I will Chrome Mox and turn it into a persistent mana source, and then Seasoned Dungeoneer. Now, if everything goes my way, the left path is insane. But I think since my opponent has 5 cards in hand, I need to mitigate against disaster and take any mana sources off of the top of my deck. Yeah, very glad I made that decision. I'm now going to dismiss these and see what happens. Ponder. Fatal Push is now online. There's the fetch. So it seems like not push. That would have happened faster. Probably not Sheldred's Edict. That's a no-brainer too. What's a 2-mana castable thing? Oh, it's Witherbloom command on the Chrome Mox. Sure. Okay, an opponent just wants to trade initiative back and forth. I can accept that. Oh shoot, they Witherbloom commanded and shrunk my Seasoned Dungeoneer. Didn't notice that. I just mentally assumed that it was going to be get a land back. That's what it always is. So, send it. Voice of Victory. Not gonna put that into my graveyard. So we fight over the initiative. I will go to stash so that I can work towards Catacombs specifically. And now that I have taken the initiative, I'm going to try to do it again. That's an exceptionally good force of will. So I take 4 in combat plus another 5. That is not great for me. Opponent is up to a whopping 6 mana now. Oh, even more damage than I thought. And they do have to... No, they don't have to do that now. I don't have the Voice of Victory yet. So I am at 1 after Trap resolves, and I have 2 bodies. Oh, I really thought I was going to have one more turn. I can hit my opponent for 5 or 6, have 2 bodies. Yeah, that does it, unfortunately. GG. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Pro Field if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. Okay, so on turn 1, I can have 3 mana, but I probably just want to have 2 mana. So I do a turn 1 Chalice. The follow-up is not great. I'm going to believe. And the reason that I'm going to believe is that Cavern on Warrior makes both of these uncounterable. No, my Chalice of the Void. I am indeed correct about what's going. So I now get a bonus mana that, because my opponent took the Chalice, I can't do anything with, which is super unfortunate. I do, however, have 3 different warriors that will be uncounterable. So now it is just a question of time. There's a very different timeline if my opponent is playing Tempo versus if they are playing, say, Doomsday. I'm going to grab the Lush Portico and Surveil here. We're looking for mana. That's mana. So next turn, we start the string of uncounterable initiative creatures. And again, we basically hope my opponent is not playing Doomsday or something like Doomsday. And now my opponent can fetch and probably surveil land as well to further select his bad lands instead. Are we a Storm deck? Are we a Grixis control deck? Are we Reanimator? There's definitely options here. They don't have additional mana, that's for sure. Chalice is not bad. However, I've got other plans. So Savannah, Cavern on, again, Warrior. We're going to play, air quotes, the worst one first. The seasoned Dungeoneers are just going to be better at attacking through things like Orcish Bowmasters. That could happen. We're going to get Forest so that I have the guaranteed third green pip. I'm not going to play Chalice on 0 here. It is Bowmasters. So I get pinged. My opponent will probably attack these in to take the initiative. That's unfortunate. There's apparently something else they can do. They thought about that decision for quite a while. You have Fatal Push as a follow-up. That's real good, yep. And a Goyf. All around, bad for me. Now I need to hit a mana accelerator to play another seasoned Dungeoneer. Otherwise, I slip so incredibly far behind here. I did not. I think I'm going to go for Chalice and get lucky, rather than Voice of Victory try to make this uncounterable. I think Chalice that randomly shuts off a bunch of cards in my opponent's hand gives me a better chance to win. But this is very bad. This Nether Goyf can be massive, or my opponent can have 2 reasonable-sized bodies. Either one is bad for me. Alright, it is Large Goyf. I am effectively at 10 life, which means that I die to the next Nether Goyf attack. Very, very, very bad for me. Third land drop. If my opponent has something like Kaito, it is online this turn. So 7 in combat, I go to 8. Which means that Trap plus Nether Goyf is lethal. Fuck, it's a fucking Kaito too. I'm out. Disgusting. Anyway, this is what these are for. What is my mana count without Chancellors? Low. They are part of the mana base. Let's trim, Bill. Let's trim these. I don't think I can cut all of them. This is fine. This is the Chancellor doing what I want it to do. This is accelerating me to a Chalice on 1. Note that in many instances, Lotus Petal is just going to be better than Chancellor of the Tangle, but I don't think I've said this on the video yet. So the reason why you conceptually want to play this is because it's something massive that you can dump in if you go and complete the initiative dungeon, the Undercity. So get green and throw down Chalice. It is in play. Now, my opponent is Grixis. They could have some sort of Culligan's Command, a Braid, Meltdown type card that can answer the Chalice, so we shouldn't just expect this to be game over. I am not going to use Elvish Spirit Guide to get 1/1/1 counter. I don't think that makes sense. I think I'm going to keep this as Daze fodder, or as something that helps me Undermountain Adventurer. My opponent likes their card, which I don't like. See what that means. Could be the Rakdos kill a creature and a non-creature thing. Molten Collapse, there we go. That was the worst case scenario there, for sure. I am just gonna play the cat. I don't really want to use Elvish Spirit Guide. Unfortunately, now the Fatal Pushes and Lightning Bolts of the world are online. Thoughtseize. I think there's an argument for a couple different cards here. If I were them, I would probably be looking at the Undermountain Adventurer. But if they have something like Daze, that math changes a lot very, very quickly. Hey, Goyf, you've got it. I might need to bite the bullet and just cast that. I absolutely do not want to. But this is a good speed bump if it resolves. Not hitting any lands as follow-up for the Scythecat Cub. Very sad for me. So that was a 2-for-2 even trade. My Scythecat Cub is not attacking in immediately. Am not pleased. Okay, I mean, that's a start. I would like to go to punchies. So if I'm the opponent there, I go to no blocks. Or sorry, I go one step further to see if I will then fetch Now I can sit with this fetch land in play and potentially save it for another creature or end of turn surveil. I'm at 14. That's not good for me. I think I'm going to opt for surveil. But, like, it's unclear whether or not introducing the initiative into the game right now is actually good, right? Because it will be a contested initiative while my opponent has a Tamiyo. I get the plains. I play the plains. I'm not too far away from casting this. I need literally 1 mana. So this is a big turn cycle right now. It reeks of Orcish Bowmasters. I'm not going to block. It's very sad. But I think if I block and get Bowmastered there, I just don't win the game. Whereas sometimes I attack in, my opponent Bowmasters, they keep the initiative, but I draw a land and cast a Chancellor of the Tangle and throw up some middle fingers and make some cool laser gun sounds or something. I'm very upset right now. Let the record show. Hello, exactly the line that I saw coming. If I go to 9, my opponent gets to just chump block here and keep the initiative. I am at 6 mana. I need 7 for this. My opponent can also make a flipped Tamiyo next turn if they want. They can crack 2 clues on their own turn. And it looks like that indeed is going to be what happens. So the Goyf gets huge. It was already pretty big. I don't know their hand, so it's hard for me to tell whether or not that's correct versus just not intending to flip the Tamiyo and having a flyer with power that makes contesting the initiative easier. All right. So, is it a Kaito, or are we just cluing? We are just cluing. Number 1. Their strategy is use this defense. Yeah, okay. That'll do. I am losing the games to my own initiative mechanic. GG's. Alright, my opponent has mulliganed 4 cards. Let's see if we just die to oops all spells before Anointed Peacekeeper comes down. No. Okay, cool. So, let's surveil. That's a weird one. I think I'm going to say no to that. It's a fine Magic the Gathering card here, but this is usually a fair land. And I think I just want to play this Cleric that can do things with Seasoned Dungeoneer immediately, while slowing down whatever limited resources my opponent actually does have. Well, I'm going to name Swords to Plowshares. Otherwise, my opponent gets immediate value this turn. I can just remove my creature and move on with their life. If they wasteland me, I just get to play Scythecat Cub. They are going for mana instead. Which means that I get to do broken stuff. And I think this time it is Seasoned Dungeoneer first, so that I can attack through my opponent's stuff. I'll pick up a land, send it. I get an extra land from the Explore trigger. My opponent has their own Scythecat Cub, and a land to follow it up. Alright. We are going to forge onto, I think, my Vigilant creature. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to Scythecat Cub. I think I do, but in a kind of weird way. I think we go 2 life, Scythecat Cub. No, I'm not going to do it in the weird way. Trigger. Let's divide this because I know my opponent has Swords to Plowshares. Fetch. Now, Scythecat Cub trigger. I'm going to double the counters here. Then play an Anointed Peacekeeper. We're going to name, you guessed it, Swords to Plowshares. Now we're going to go to Punchies. And then target the big one. No, I'll draw Scythecat Cub. I guess I should have mathed that out. So I put another counter on there. There's 2 counters on it. I double it to 4 counters. It goes up to 5 counters. Oh, I guess my opponent also just let Seasoned Dungeoneer hit and didn't chump block. Okay, yeah, no, I was not presenting deterministic lethal there then. Okay, Chalice of the Void out, Sheltered by Ghosts in, and I probably will play Containment Priest for my opponent's Green Suns. It is a little bit worse on the draw, admittedly. But Voice of Victory is not really the most impactful thing here. This is 4 counterspells in this deck. I don't have good token synergy with it. And I might just do something that looks like that as well. Yeah, I am in for this hand. We are going to have 4 mana on turn 1 for Undermountain Adventurer, and then I can follow it up with a Sheltered by Ghosts. Is Sheltered by Ghosts better than second Undermountain Adventurer, though? It honestly might not be. If I go Chrome Mox, Imprint Sheltered by Ghosts, 4 mana, and I end up having to crack this to do the second one, which is fine. Okay. Yeah. I can even get a basic forest right here. Yeah. I think the issue with trying to keep this Sheltered by Ghosts on this exact board state is that if something goes wrong, like my opponent just swords and then takes the initiative this turn, it is disastrous for me. And this is exactly what I was talking about. If I had kept the Sheltered by Ghosts, I don't have the counterplay that I want here. Never didn't have it anyway. Okay. So Adventurer. I'm going to Forge. If my opponent does not have another immediate removal spell, this is going to be a giant creature that also ends up giving me back my other Undermountain Adventurer. That is a Scythecat Cub, a Mother of Runes. Sure. My opponent can just start probably stacking up the cat for landfall. All right, so we trap. Yeah. This does not have trample. Do I care? I can 4 mana and take out my opponent's Noble Hierarch. And then I immediately draw a card for Archives. I think I just need to get rid of the mom. Yeah. Now I have this massive lifelinking creature, which can also tap for some mana. My opponent is at 10. I get to find a land. A Surveil land, specifically. Woohoo! Those in multiples are strong. That's 2 +1/+1 counters, bringing that to a 5, which means it is a 6 on the attack. Ooh, that's a Dryad Arbor. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, that's bad. This now doubles the counters twice. That goes to 6 counters, followed by 12 counters. This is an attack for 20. Sorry. You've got it. Also, it tramples. Or sorry, it's not an attack for 20. They didn't forge yet. They just had all those +1/+1 counters from other shit. Fuck. Big draw, please. Big draw, please. And I am willing to do this despite the fact that my opponent has Wasteland showing. Absolutely not. Yep. No, I knew that was coming. Again, this does not trample. It does have Vigilance. Yeah, so my opponent just blocks. So I am at 9. I have 7 toughness. Yeah, I'm dead. Well, damn. That was a banana Scythecat Cub situation. Feels like my sideboarding's about right. I could force a Vigor now that I've specifically seen Sheltered by Ghosts, but I think just having bodies is important. Man, if this was an actual white source, like maybe we could talk, but absolutely not. All right, turn 1. Land drop, Chrome Mox, imprint a thing, Chrome Mox, imprint a thing, If I want to Archon on turn 1 to maximally slow my opponent down, it costs me land. It costs me basically everything. Or I can try to turn 2 initiative creature. I get rid of 1 Chrome Mox. I go end of turn Surveil land. Then turn 2, I have 2 mana, Chrome Mox, imprint you, 3 mana, 4 mana, go. That is probably stronger. I'm going to do that. So Archon is very high risk, very high reward, where like sometimes it sets my opponent back to the point that they just can't possibly win the game. But the times where it doesn't work, like my opponent goes basic playing swords and my all-in play was terrible. Bristly Bill. I'm going to keep that as a follow-up play. So land drop, Chrome Mox. Actually, is Bristly Bill? Yikes. Hyper aggressive there. I won't imprint a card now. I'm going to try to draw a land next turn for this. My Archon is getting worse and worse, though. My opponent's deck is a slightly lower to the ground version of my deck. I'm sending in and seeing if I can bluff 2 points of damage here. Send it. Nice. Now I might need to begrudgingly play something. I'm going to go with the flyer. because the ground is likely to get stalled out, and then I can try to put counters on this. Opponent's just going to surveil. This is not going well. I fully expect to lose this game. Yeah. Life's awful. I can't cast more than one spell each turn here. I can't go Chrome Mox into Anointed Peacekeeper. Alright. I'm giving up on the initiative as a viable thing. I'm playing this out so that I can maybe cast Anointed Peacekeeper next turn. Noble Hierarch. I'm just keeping stable mana. Yeah, you've got it. I take 4 and go to 15. Failure. Just not hitting additional lands. I should have done that post-combat. I could have pushed 2 more points of damage. I don't think it matters. I think I am going to handily lose this game, and I don't think it is going to be close. Like, my opponent's deck is a low-to-the-ground landfall deck, whereas I am this awkward landfall Ancient Tomb Chancellor deck. Endurance me. You got it. I'm out. We're done here. GG's. Alright, what are we in now? Round 4. I could have a turn 1 Archon of Emeria and then no reasonable follow-up play. I don't like it. Whereas this I like quite a bit. This is not an Ancient Tomb hand. This is a my things are super double uncounterable hand. Swamp. Duress. We're gonna die to combo on turn 2. I wish I had turn 1 Archon of Emeria, I guess. I think I am inefficient with Scythecat Cub here to dig for things that stop a combo deck. Duress almost never comes from a fair deck. No follow-up land drop from my opponent. It's not like I can wasteland them or anything. Fuck. I do not want this card. I think I need to draw it in case my opponent is mono black Reanimator. Cat. I think Scythecat Cub powering itself up potentially with multiple fetch lands ends up goldfishing me this game faster than Voice of Victory does. My opponent has conceded the game. Cloud09 begins the game with 7 cards in hand, cast a Duress, conceded the game to fucking Scythecat Cub. Fucking mulligan! I beg you! I beg you! I shout it from the rooftops! Mulligan, please! I beg you! I am just going to assume that they are up to no good in some capacity that makes these cards all pretty good. Basic Swamp Duress. I think these are a slam dunk. I think I'm going to go down some large creatures in case my opponent is playing Reanimator so they can't Thoughtseize my initiative creatures and then reanimate them. Then it's a little harder. I'm going to play the Null Rods. I think they miss sometimes. This is 22 creatures, not counting Chancellor. That's too light. Actually, it's worse if they take Chancellor than it is if they take Seasoned Dungeoneer, I think. I think I end up going a happy medium after I figure out whether or not I need Null Rod. I think I am just mulliganing to a Leyline of the Void here. This is a turn 2 Chalice of the Void. I don't think so. This is a Leyline of the Void. This is a keep. I get rid of Seasoned Dungeoneer. I keep 2 lands. Start with Leyline in play. Have 2 different reasonable turn 2 plays. Nice. 3 different reasonable turn 2 plays. Opponent fetches. Sewers. Infernal Tutor. Okay. That's what this sort of stuff is for. The Null Rods were good. You've got it. There's Underground Sea after the Ponder. Ponder did not shuffle. The rest can take my Chalice. So I have things like Archon that I would love to find. So, let's dig. Land is reasonable with Scythecat Cub, but I think hitting Null Rods and Chalices is too good. So I think I bin that. Alright. So we are going to drop the Scythecat Cub and pass here. Apologies if you get any background mowing noises. My neighbor is doing their thing. Pretty quiet on my end. I can't see it on the mic. So just kind of talking through some stuff here. My opponent will probably have some Cabal Ritual-based lines, could have some Past in Flames, or Gaia's Will lines that involve using their graveyard that I do shut off. I don't think I get a ton of time here before they just do their thing. Cabal Ritual, more other Cabal Ritual, Storm Count of 6, Infernal Tutor, or Beseech the Mirror for Adnause. Fucking Adnause in the year of our Keranos 2025. Fucking wild. You gotta keep going, right? Or did you not play a land? Okay, you didn't play a land. Then you can Dark Writ, double LED, Infernal Tutor, kill me. Dark Writ. Now my opponent puts Infernal Tutor on the stack, and then they can Tendrils of Agony me. Blue? Okay, no, it was just a random color. Okay, that's fine. Now we know. So, I don't need Containment Priest. That can be Force of Vigor or Chancellor of the Tangle. Chancellor of the Tangle accelerating me towards Archon, or Chalice on 1 matters, or Anointed Peacekeeper, honestly. This card's totally fine. I kind of kill my opponent with whatever as long as I don't die. I could play Force of Vigor over 2x Seasoned Dungeoneer here. The fuck with Lion's Eye Diamond specifically. It's mid. I don't think I am going to do it. I think at some point I have to just keep some threats in the deck. I am at 22 threats, not counting Chancellors. Oh, this is so tragic. So I have 4 mana on turn 1, but not 4 mana towards Seasoned Dungeoneer specifically. I'm going to mulligan this one. I Chrome Mox a card. I probably Chrome Mox, imprint Bristly Bill, play a Chalice on 0, hope to draw lands. I'm going to hope that I can do better than that. Okay. It is what it is. Leyline of the Void is not the most potent thing in the world here. I think I am going to go Chalice on 1 for the rituals. I could Chalice on 0 just as easily, but I think I like this. So now I want to Surveil land my way to an Ancient Tomb, play Seasoned Dungeoneer. The Ball Ritual goes bye-bye. Opponent's just chilling after land drop 2. That's great for me. But I'm down quite a few cards here. I need some help. I'm gonna say no to that. That just means I'm doing nothing in the next turn cycle. That is worse, but I would have drawn this the next turn anyway. I am not going to Chrome Mox Seasoned Dungeoneer immediately. I will do that if I draw a 3-drop. Like I would cast just about any 3-drop. Fuck you, bud. I think that can always go under a Chrome Mox right now. I can't lose the Chrome Mox to a Duress currently because of my Chalice. I think I'm fine with this. It ends up not being fine if my opponent does something weird like Burning Wish for some sort of meltdown, crash, whatever the other red pitch card is, sort of thing. Anyway, if you want an illustration of why not to play Chancellor of the Tangle in Legacy, this probably serves as a lesson. Like, if this is just a Lotus Petal, I get to Seasoned Dungeoneer, and I am attacking for 5 on this next turn. Alright, opponent's doing something. Nope, they are just fetching once and then discarding. Junking a Thoughtseize. Okay. Fetch. And initiative time. But this is coming down late. This is turn 6. And I have 2 weak pieces of disruption here. My opponent does not necessarily even need to answer these to win the game. You just countering this trigger? Yes. So they replicate it so that the Chalice is countering the original, but then my opponent junks the trigger. So my initiative subgame has not started. Now I just have a crappy exploring creature. Not great. Not great. My opponent's deck is absolutely not presenting a win here, so we've got that going for us. Yeah, I guess I just attack and then I play Bristly Bill afterwards. Trigger Null Rod. No, I will not put that into my graveyard. That can stay right there. That's a reasonable safety net. This shuts off the Dark Ritual mana. Null Rod shuts off the LEDs and Lotus Petal type things. This is a very big turn. My next turn is a very big turn for me. Again, I feel like I should be dead, but my opponent is just discarding the hand size. Apparently this Chalice, doing fucking work. 6. Get a land for Bristly Bill as well. We will go trigger. Oh, I have protection from creatures right now. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Null Rod. So, I have shut off my Chrome Mox. If I draw another land, I can just double the +1/+1 counters on my creatures. But my opponent is dead on board. So, this is their big moment. That is a Storm count. Tendrils. You gotta do what you gotta do. That puts my opponent to 11, which will maybe keep them alive for another turn. So, I will go to Punchies. Again, my Chrome Mox is off. I don't have 5 mana right now. Anointed Peacekeeper. No, I will keep that. My opponent is at 3, and I get to see their hand and play another hate card here. We're going to name Infernal Tutor. So 3 of my opponent's cards are locked out by Chalice. The Infernal Tutors are locked out by Anointed Peacekeeper. The Past in Flames is locked out by Leyline of the Void. My hand was not great. My opponent's hand was worse. It worked out well for us, I suppose. Is that our first win on the board? That is our first win on the board. Rough day. Alright. My opponent has the username Orzhov Control and has revealed a Yorion. Take that for what you will. Regardless, I probably need to mulligan. I just don't have enough mana here to deploy my cards. 3/4 drops on 2 mana is rough. I have 3 mana on turn 1 for an Anointed Peacekeeper, I guess. I probably just don't do that. I probably just get rid of the Chancellor of the Tangle and keep a slightly slow, awkward hand. Alright. Opponent appears to be living up to their name. I'm gonna go land and pass. I maybe Anointed Peacekeeper next turn. Maybe just wait for 3 mana. We'll see. Sure. Kaldra is not great for me, because I just don't answer that card in game 1. I'm fine against it in the post-sideboard games. So I guess I hope that my opponent just gets something else. Alright, they got Jitte. That's another card I haven't seen in a hot minute. Let's make a plan. Chrome Mox. Sure. I will go land. Chrome Mox. Then it gets more interesting. The high roll is Seasoned Dungeoneer. Opponent doesn't have removal, and I overpower what they are doing. I think I'm going to try to high roll here. I think my opponent's deck lines up very favorably versus my deck. I am going to do the thing with the most potential upside and the most potential downside. So the worst timeline is my opponent goes land drops, Swords to Plowshares, activate Stoneforge Mystic, and they already have Kaldra in hand. In which case, I just lose to that very, very easily. Wasteland doesn't matter. Here we go. Hey. Yeah, so if I play Anointed Peacekeeper, I slow this down. I don't stop it, I slow it down, and then I get to play Seasoned Dungeoneer the next turn. I was kind of hoping my opponent just did a called shot that I was playing a small creature deck. Alright, well, here we go. Swords. It is indeed the worst timeline. I'm going to take a look at their hand and then I think concede. I just don't beat Kaldra from this position. And I'm fine letting them know that I have Anointed Peacekeeper. Yeah, actual factual Flicker Wisps. Okay. Sideboarding here is going to be pretty straightforward. Chalice is out, Sheltered by Ghosts in. And then there's some other stuff that I can do. These cards are playable. Force of Vigor is not crazy person talk. Voice of Victory is not particularly good in this matchup. So I think I'm turning at least 2 of those into Containment Priests for Aether Vial, and to a lesser extent other Flicker stuff. But this does turn Flicker Wisps into small nuclear bombs, so there is that to keep in mind. Then I think I'm going to go bam and bam. I don't think I'm going to Force of Vigor. It doesn't answer Kaldra, which is the most important thing that I need to answer. This is fine. I will reveal the Chancellor. I'm going to add some green. I need to drop Savannah to do what I want to do next turn. My curve is Bill into Archon into Seasoned Dungeoneer. That's the plan. Basic planes. So, land drop, trigger, attempt punchies for 3. Punchies for 3 are successful. I'm going to drop an Archon. My opponent has a bunch of basic planes, but there are also a bunch of utility lands in this deck. So, I don't know their exact numbers. We might be somewhere on the order of 50-50 for whether or not this actually snipes lands and makes them come into play tapped. Land drop. I think I'm going to just stack up on Bill here. Or you are a plant druid? Druid is not one of these. So I'm stacking up on Bill to put pressure on my opponent's Caracas to return Bill to hand when I am pressuring them from a lot of other angles already. So now I'm going to 4 mana Seasoned Dungeoneer. And next, okay, my opponent is just done with me. That's perfectly fair. On the draw, do I want extra answers to Vile? Nah. Like, I would be boarding out mana, which is problematic against a deck that presumably has some amount of Port, Wasteland, Ghost Quarter type stuff. We haven't seen it yet, but it's presumably over there. This is a mediocre opening hand. I have a good mix of lands and spells, but boy, it's so easy for stuff to go wrong here. Like, I play turn 2 Voice of Victory. My opponent plays a turn 2 Stoneforge. My Sheltered by Ghosts is a little slow there. This is a matchup where not just having actual factual Swords to Plowshares is really scary. My opponent has good white removal. Hello, Bill. Flagstones. Wonder if my opponent is a baller and is playing something like Cataclysm that actually takes advantage of that. That's less cool. Like, it's obviously still fine, but I miss Cataclysm. And there's the Orzhov of Orzhov Control. Chancellor of the Tangle. Hello. My Voice of Victory is not fantastic on this board. My Bristly Bill is at risk of getting Caracased, which is very awkward if I want to put Sheltered by Ghosts on it. So I think I am still playing out Voice of Victory, despite the awkwardness there. Alright, opponent is remaining aggressive. My opponent has removal. They have to do it now. I will absolutely take a bonus land. I do have both of my basics now, though, for initiative purposes, so slightly awkward there. They giveth me lands, and they taketh lands away. Scythecat Cub is an excellent draw. I will do that and hit landfall for my +1/+1 counter. It's possible I should just like not play a land this turn to play Bristly Bill and trigger both of these next turn, but I think I need to hit land drops so that I have the possibility of either double spell next turn or 4-drop next turn. Elia, sure. I am now out of basic lands, by the way, so this is bad. Like, probably I concede levels of bad. They might just blink my Scythecat Cub out of the way, though. Like, they don't know how many basics I run, and I think it's super reasonable to assume that I might be on 3 or 4 based on what they've seen. The jig will be up soon, though. Very hard for me to now introduce an initiative creature into the game with Thalia there. Ooh, not great. Not great. You have Containment Priest, too? Fuck. So now every creature that I play out just dies. I am comfortable throwing in the towel there. This was not a successful experiment. That is a 1-4 finish to the league. Alright, so what sort of things did we learn today? Number 1, this is probably just worse than Lotus Petal in any sort of deck that looks like this. Especially if you are a multicolored deck, the boost that you get from Chancellor of the Tangle does not cast all of your cards. And I absolutely made a better Chancellor of the Tangle deck by making it so that any of these likely can be cast off the Chancellor mana. But as we saw, we often weren't getting to the mana required to do these, and these are the big payoff cards. So Lotus Petal being able to just be with an Ancient Tomb or a City of Traders and cast one of these immediately results in so much stronger of a start. And there were a bunch of games where we had an Archon and we're like, oh, I can't really play the Archon yet. Oh, I can't give up this mana or I'll never be able to cast these things. So there was some real tension there. I don't think the upside of being able to hit this off of the Undercity is worth it. And beyond that, our initiative creatures were pretty bad throughout the league. I know they won some games, but my blue opponents have so many creatures now. They just have Orcish Bowmasters that have Flash that can threaten to take the initiative. They have Kaitos. Like, they have Murktide Regents, sometimes Endurance or Uro. It is not like the early days of the initiative where if you throw this in play versus a control deck, it's going to take them 6 turns to find a creature. They are often going to have a creature castable on turn 2. So I think this deck is getting hit with the double whammy of initiative is not particularly good in Legacy right now, and Chancellor is just worse than Lotus Petal. You can also just build decks that are lower to the ground than this and are more threatening, right? So like kind of going down the green-white energy shell, you can play Ocelot Pride and Guide of Souls, maybe Noble Hierarchs, maybe Elvish Reclaimers, and just get rid of the top end of this and put the Hate Bears in the sideboard, and you maybe end up being happier with your deck overall. The stuff that was in the sideboard was fine overall. I used most of it. I liked the options that were there. But I think this is back to the drawing board if you want to be trying to game with Chancellor of the Tangle. This was pretty fun though. I did enjoy playing this deck. Plus, we got absolutely whacked by a giant Scythecat cub, which I am always game for. All right, folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, and if you need some cards, you know where to go. I am going to go and take a very long hot shower. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.